from impressive sea monsters to completely unpredictable encounters in the most ordinary bodies of water. Fishing can always hand out an incredible surprise. Today, these are the most astonishing stories of anglers that are impossible to forget. I promise it will be interesting, so stay until the very end. Number 1. One person was standing on a riverbank and noticed something large moving in the water. Upon closer inspection, his amazement knew no bounds. A huge marine lobster with a grayish-brown shell and bright red eyes was calmly moving along the river current. It is a real mystery how such a large creature ended up from the salty sea in fresh water. Even small lobsters cost a fortune, and here before him was a genuine giant with powerful claws. Imagine how much this marine titan would fetch at the market. But perhaps you cannot put a price on such a catch, because it is so surreal to witness such a wonder in a quiet river backwater. A group of friends went to Indonesia for some leisurely fishing. Someone pulled out a fishing rod, another threw out a net. Then one of them felt a powerful tug. Something clearly big was on the hook. The water literally boiled around them. While the buddies frantically grabbed a net to help, the fish managed to demonstrate its considerable strength. But with combined effort, they pulled out a creature with a silvery gray body and large, round spots near its belly. It turned out to be the notorious knife fish, often called the clown knife fish. In one village, people noticed something so unusual in the pond that they immediately called the neighbors. Splashing in the water was a huge snake that had real horns, ears, and even features reminiscent of a bull's muzzle. Yet, its body retained a typical serpentine shape with scales. Everyone gathered in amazement, jaws dropped. Could it be an exotic mutation or the result of a failed laboratory experiment? Trying to guess, the onlookers simply could not believe their eyes. Thus, this story remained a horned mystery, the topic of endless debate. Do such creatures exist in nature, or is this the work of unnatural hands? On the shore, where an owner was walking his dogs, a creature suddenly jumped out of the waves that looked like a marine animal with an elongated muzzle. While the dogs were happily playing, the creature lunged out of the water with a loud splash, trying to grab one of them. The owner managed to chase it off just in time, and the dog was not harmed. But the uninvited guest had a terrifying appearance, either a very large sea otter or a beast unknown to science. In a single moment, the creature disappeared beneath the waves again, leaving the owner and his dogs in shock. Late at night, a man with a camera noticed something large moving slowly under an old wooden pier. It was clearly bigger than a human and resembled a huge alligator. The passerby filmed the moment. You can only see the massive back and tail disappearing into the darkness. Just one glance is enough to send chills down your spine. Imagine if this visitor decided to come ashore. The footage quickly went viral on the internet, with countless theories in the comments. An alligator, a dinosaur, or something beyond imagining. A daring individual decided to inspect a lake and stumbled upon a big sack, obviously wrapped up and resting in the shallows. He tugged at the edge, but found it too heavy to pull onto the shore. Whatever was inside remained a mystery, but the appearance alone was chilling, like someone had deliberately hidden something that was never meant to be found. Filming everything, the young man explained with a trembling voice that something is not right here. What could have been stashed in that ominous sack? Perhaps the truth will remain forever shrouded in darkness. A father was calmly rafting with his daughter in a kayak when he noticed a floating foam noodle, the kind used for buoyancy. Deciding to fish this thing out of the water, he did not immediately realize that right next to it swam a massive alligator with its jaws wide open. The reptile glided by just a few centimeters from the kayak. Terrified, the man flung the foam away to distract the dinosaur, and then, without wasting a moment, paddled to a safe distance. Surprisingly, the daughter remained calm. Perhaps she took it as an extreme adventure. A group of anglers captured the moment they managed to land a catfish larger than a person's height. They claimed its length reached almost 3 meters, and its weight was so great that they barely got it onto the shore. Its skin was nearly black, and its huge whiskers and enormous mouth left an unforgettable impression. This catch will stay with them for a long time, since such specimens are considered rare even in deep rivers. Once, a photographer decided to create a dramatic shoot featuring crocodiles by the river. He asked a friend to throw a piece of meat into the water, hoping to capture the reptiles in their predatory glory. The giant jaws fiercely snatched the treat, but one crocodile seemed to have other plans. Instead of battling for the meat, it suddenly lunged right at the photographer. At the last moment, the cameraman jumped back and the crocodile missed, crashing back into the river with a loud splash. The video of this close call was labeled the most nerve-wracking and talked about clip by his followers. Now the photographer has vowed never to risk so much for the sake of a spectacular shot. Several years ago in southern Australian waters, a great white shark was caught, weighing about 2 tons. The fishing crew got caught in a fierce storm while hauling up this massive creature, which far exceeded the sizing of their boat. The predator measured around 6 meters, and scientists estimate it was already several decades old. They believe it is among the last of such large great whites. Its fate was sealed. The shark was kept in a special glass container for public display. Off the coast of Mexico, a group of fishers managed to catch a sunfish, also called a mola. These fish usually appear in these waters during migrations, but this specimen was shocking in size. When the fishers tried to weigh it, they realized it was too heavy for their boat. The vessel began to tilt precariously. They did manage to measure this guest, then released it with reverence. One can only marvel at the colossal creatures hidden in the ocean depths. An avid angler once pulled out an unbelievably large catfish, which turned out to be about 9 feet in length. To officially confirm the record, he carefully measured the fish with a tape measure and then proudly released it back into the water. Before the catfish swam off, the lucky man even kissed its tail, his way of showing gratitude for such a unique chance to make history. In a video that went viral, a girl was feeding bread to turtles, delighted at how they reached for the treat. Suddenly, from behind her, a large unknown creature appeared, lunged at a fish in the water, but missed. The child squealed and jumped away, while onlookers panicked, trying to figure out, what was that? Someone mentioned a giant lizard. Others imagined the Loch Ness monster. A man was sitting on a pier, carefully lowering a small fish into the water, apparently luring something bigger. Suddenly, the water exploded. Something enormous snatched that fish right out of his hand and disappeared, leaving only a flurry of splashes. The camera captured how the angler barely managed to pull his hand away in time. Another second of delay, and he might have lost his fingers. The most mysterious part is that no one really knew what made that lightning-fast strike. In New Zealand, fishers were looking over their catch when they pulled out a particularly odd trout that was missing its upper jaw. Its lower jaw, on the other hand, was elongated and jutted forward dramatically. The trout looked so strange that everyone whispered as though they were gazing at an alien creature. Yet the fish was very much alive and active. Realizing how rare such a find was, they gently returned it to the water so it could continue its life in its native habitat. Sometimes the catch is so big that you have to risk your own safety for it. One passionate fisher felt a massive pull on his line and, without hesitation, jumped into the water rod and all. The creature turned out to be huge and fought with all its might, but the man refused to give up. After a lengthy struggle, he proudly landed the fish, comparing its length to his own height. Later, he shared that the fish had nearly shark-like teeth. A real bit of madness, but passion for fishing can sometimes push people to take risks. Once, A fisherman took a few friends out on a boat, and just as he cast the bait, he was already prepared for a patient wait. But unexpectedly, a bite happened almost immediately. One short cast was enough to hook a good catch. His companions were astonished. They had only just settled on board, and the prize came to them of its own accord. Probably one of those moments when fortune decides to give an unforgettable gift. One evening, a man was watching seagulls on the shore when he noticed something huge and red emerge from beneath the surface. The creature instantly submerged again, leaving only a splash and countless questions. Viewers of the footage concluded that it was likely a gigantic octopus, but its size and color were so impressive that some even doubted, wondering, what if it was something else entirely? One way or another, that nighttime visitor was never seen again. A man in a kayak was enjoying the beauty of a lake when he noticed a giant dark shape in the water nearby. By its outline, it did not look like an ordinary fish. It was more like something mythical. Suddenly, the monster slapped a massive tail and caused such a splash that waves rippled in all directions. It seemed the creature decided to flee from unwelcome attention. Panicked, the angler backed away to a safe distance, wondering which underwater resident had just come close to overturning his kayak. A group of fishers hauled a swordfish onto their deck, possibly about 1 meter in length. When one of the men tried to lift it, the fish abruptly slipped from his grasp and began thrashing around with its bill. An expert on board explained that such behavior is a natural defensive instinct. Swordfish do not tolerate being seized and restrained and can easily cause injury. Luckily, everyone got away with just a scare, realizing you should never underestimate these underwater gladiators. In one clip, you see an arowana open its mouth, and suddenly, a whole swarm of tiny fry swim out. It turns out this fish uses mouth brooding, keeping its offspring safe inside its mouth until they are sufficiently developed. Once they grow, the arowana spits them out into the world. It is mesmerizing how extraordinary survival strategies can be in the underwater realm. Many people kept modest goldfish as children, but in one video, someone shows off a miniature pet with dazzling golden scales. It appears as though the fish had been painted with real gold. Not a hint of dullness, but rather like liquid sun on its fins. It is breathtaking to see nature produce such vivid coloration, a stunning sight, reminding us how magnificent and varied our world truly is. In one case, the fish literally jumped right into an angler's hands. A large fish, known as a permit, seemed to swim right up to the person's hand. Without hesitation, he grabbed it with his bare hands. It sounds like unbelievable luck or some special intuition. The fish was so big that many would only dream of lifting such a trophy. Fellow anglers shouted in excitement while he stood there holding this silvery wonder, hardly believing his own luck. An entire team of fishers banded together to pull a blue marlin from the restless sea. The waves pounded the hull, but they persisted in reeling it in. "Do not give up. We almost have it," came shouts from all sides. When the marlin finally made it onto the deck, it became clear. They had caught a genuine giant, one of the ocean's strongest fighters. The surge of adrenaline and the storm of emotion were worth every effort. Such a trophy is rarely encountered. Electric eels can generate powerful electric shocks. In one video, an alligator decided to attack an eel, clearly hoping to make a quick meal of it. It was immediately met with several hundred volts. The reptile jerked and pulled away, realizing that fighting this electric wire might be lethal. The lesson is simple. Even a fearsome predator does not always come out on top if it does not know its opponent's special abilities. A resident of Arizona reeled in a strange fish with dark scales, almost like a plated armor. He posted a clip online where everyone scrutinized this marvel. Later, it turned out to be a pleco, or suckerfish, introduced from aquariums and established in local waters. It has a tough armor and can survive under harsh conditions. Such are the wonders. A seemingly ordinary river hides an armored outsider from afar. In a viral social media video, a man finds a giant greenish fish in a murky pond. It seems to be dozing, not very active. The person even gently touched its tail. Most viewers concluded that it was an arapaima, occasionally found far from its normal habitat. Given its size and sluggishness, this fish became a genuine sensation for the local countryside. A group of divers was peacefully admiring the underwater world when a great white shark suddenly appeared before them. The predator picked a target and rushed forward, jaws gaping wide. One of the women pulled back just in time, avoiding a fatal bite. Everyone's hearts jumped into their throats. Not every day do you come face to face with such a predator. After this incident, the divers vowed never to dive without extra protection and a thorough survey of the area. Once, a fisherman caught a specimen so large that even he was smaller than his catch. But the fish had no intention of surrendering. It thrashed, spun around, and whipped its tail. It seemed like a tug of war to see who would prevail. Spectators stood by, tensely watching the showdown. Finally, with all his might, the fisherman lifted the monster. But that very second, it flung itself back into the water. It was a wild struggle replayed again and again, just to relive that rush. In India, fishers were returning from the sea with full nets when they suddenly realized there were dozens of black wriggling creatures among the fish, moray eels. Everyone backed away in alarm as these snake-like beings tried to flop back into the water. Initially, people feared they might be venomous snakes, but once they figured it out, they carefully tossed the morays overboard. Sometimes an unforeseen surprise can be no less dangerous than a real snake bite. In an African village, local residents dug up a long creature from the dried-out ground, resembling an eel with strange lung-like organs. It turned out to be a lungfish, capable of breathing air and burying itself in mud during droughts. The villagers were stunned. How can something live underground? Yet nature never ceases to amaze. This species is vivid proof of the incredible adaptive mechanisms in living organisms. A young villager decided to fish in a peculiar way. He tied a lizard to a rope and lowered it into the water, hoping for a big catch. At first, nothing special happened, but suddenly the water churned, and from the depths, an enormous fish sprang up and greedily snatched the lizard, vanishing in an instant. The boy jumped back, frightened and bewildered by how swiftly nature claims its due. An angler was hauling in a fish so powerful that the rod snapped in half. At first came shouts of joy and then a splitting crack, as if wood were breaking. But the fisherman did not give up. Gripping what remained of his tackle, he kept pulling with his bare hands. The fish turned out to be a Goliath grouper, one of those underwater tanks that can easily break the gear of even the most seasoned anglers. A Chinese trawler accidentally caught a great white shark that, according to the crew, was nearly the length of an orca. In the footage, you can see the fishers celebrating and even sitting on the shark's back to pose for photos. It is hard to grasp that once upon a time, these predators reached even larger sizes, but due to industrial fishing, their populations are plummeting. Each such giant is truly rare and a reminder for us to think about our place in the food chain. A simple family trip turned into a real sensation when they pulled up a rare silver-colored electric eel. It seemed to sparkle with a dazzling discharge, blinding everyone standing too close. Moreover, the eel kept twisting and crackling with sparks, ready to shock anyone who dared come near. People quickly realized that this was no ordinary fish, and it was best to keep their distance. So fishing is not merely quiet patience. Beneath a calm surface, there can be true giants, mystical beings, and terrifying predators ready to leap into action at any moment. Thank you for staying with us right to the very end. Do not forget to rate the video, leave a couple of comments to help it spread, and check out the previous episodes on the Top Facts channel.